Smart Way. This is Kelly. Today I'm going to be talking about unexpected side effects of pregnancy. And this is just my experience of what I went through. One of the first things that I experienced was weight gain. I know that seems like an obvious one, right? Of course, people gain weight when they're pregnant. But in my mind, I always felt like I was sort of fit. And I won't say I was athletic, but I was in the past, but I felt like I had a semi-athletic body, like the body of a person who oh, I can tell you used to play sports in high school, or you kind of keep yourself together. So in my mind, that's the type of body type that I had. And I've always been really good about monitoring what I'm eating and, taking my vitamins and stuff like that. So I just, ever since I started cooking for myself, I've always been really sort of mindful of the things that I'm eating and trying to eat things that are, find healthier alternatives to things and not really eating a lot of fried foods and stuff. So I wasn't expecting to gain a lot of weight. I just thought that I was going to kind of have like this little knapsack of a pregnancy, like it was just gonna sit there right on my stomach and it was gonna be cute, like, ooh, look, it's a baby, it's a little baby bum. And I just thought, it was just gonna just sit right there, and it wasn't gonna, everything else was just gonna stay untouched. It wasn't gonna, travel to any parts of my body. Well, lo and behold, when that baby came through, she was everywhere. She showed up in my nose and my face and my arms. Like it was evident that I was pregnant. So, unfortunately, I wasn't able to camouflage my pregnancy for that long. And, being at work, as I was going into the office at that time and working an office job, I really didn't want to come out and tell my coworkers that I was pregnant too early. I was over the age of 30. So I was sort of hesitant about, announcing something and, not really, you don't want to announce something because you're over a certain age and you're just very cognizant, because it's just like this little life and it's so precious, and you just, I don't know. I didn't want to announce it to people and then maybe, God forbid something happened and you got to come back and explain or whatever. So I wasn't ready to announce that. But my body went ahead and made that announcement for me, because people could see it all over me. You could see it, I guess, in the way I walked, in my breathing habits. I had a lot of breathlessness. So I had people comment on that. Oh, you seem very breathless. Are you pregnant? And by the way, don't ask people if they're pregnant if you don't really know them or have a personal relationship with them. So especially if you're a coworker and you just know that person in the office, don't ask them if they're pregnant. That's rude, because a lot of people have medical conditions and may not be pregnant. And also that person may not want to disclose their pregnancy that early. So leave it to that person to discuss and to tell you if they're pregnant. So that was something that I don't know, it was a rude awakening. And it was just okay, I guess I'm, just I'm going to gain weight just like everybody else. I don't know why I thought I was different or it wasn't going to hit me the same, but that was just my notion. Another thing is that, when I was pregnant, I had really bad carpal tunnel syndrome. And when I say bad, I'm talking about excruciating pain in my wrist. The pain was right here, and it would travel up to my hands, and it hurt so bad. And I had to type at this time. I had to lift things and carry things, and it was just so painful. So I had it in both hands. So I had to end up wearing a wrist guard or a wrist brace to help support my wrist, because they were just so excruciating. And my doctor explained to me that because when you're pregnant, because the baby is pulling so many nutrients and everything from your body, that you're your bones and stuff, they can get weaker. You can have like bone loss and all that stuff, and calcium deficiencies. So that was a result of, our pregnancy, just the nutrients that were pulling away. But I had never heard anybody ever talk about that. I never knew it was a thing. And then once I had it and I started talking about it, and I hear other people say, oh, well, I know someone who had that issue, or, someone would say, oh, well, I had that, but nobody ever talked about it. I just felt like it was like, okay, why had I not heard about this before? So that was something that that was really hard for me to deal with, because it was painful. It was painful to sleep. It was painful to work and type. It was painful to lift anything up, because it just felt like such immense pressure on my wrists. They felt like they were so weak. I remember that, at the job I was working at the time, I had a coworker who was so kind and so gracious enough to take my computer bag in the morning when I would get ready to go into the office. She would come to my car and she would take my computer bag out of my car and she would carry it into work. And then when I got off of work, she would go out with me and she would carry my computer back to my car and put it in my trunk. And I will forever be grateful for that. That was such a sweet, kind gesture. But I couldn't even like lift it up, and it was a roller bag. So just even rolling it to my car and lifting it up, which you don't really have to lift it up that much, but lifting it up to my car, it hurts so bad. So that actually did end up going away, thank goodness. I don't know what I would have done. I would have had to probably seek surgery about that. But another thing is gestational diabetes. Now, I had never really heard of gestational diabetes, and I'd never heard of diabetes as it relates to pregnancy. I mean, I had known about diabetes. I have people who have diabetes that are in my family, but I didn't know that was something that would affect you during pregnancy, or that that pregnancy could be a precursor to that. So my experience with that was that I got tested fairly early on and found out that I had gestational diabetes. Now, when I say early on, I'm talking about like the first 3 months. I found out that I had gestational diabetes. Usually this isn't something that is tested for until like usually the end of the pregnancy. So usually about maybe, I think 6 or 7 months, people get tested for that. I got tested fairly early on. So that completely changed the game. Like in my mind, I was going to be pregnant. I was going to have my extra ice cream. I was going to be able to have like my junk food and indulge, all in the name of I'm pregnant and, this is what I want and I'm carrying for 2. Well, that wasn't my reality. In reality, I had to check my blood sugar every day. I had to report my numbers in a journal and a log. I had to see a dietitian. I had to also go see my gestational diabetes doctor on top of going to my regular doctor. So it was a lot of visits. It was a lot of, counseling on nutrition, counting carbs, counting your fiber, protein, all that stuff. And it just was, at the time it was daunting, because that's not something I had expected or that I factored in my mind. So another thing that I hadn't really factored for was a C-section. Now, in my mind, I had this birth plan that I was going to deliver my baby and she was going to be natural, and that's what it was. I didn't see any barriers to that. Well, when I started going into labor, I went to the hospital, but the baby, for whatever reason, she wouldn't come down. Right? We had some difficulty. She was in distress and they had to do an emergency C-section. So I was not prepared to have the C-section and what that entailed in the recovery process of that. I also, I didn't anticipate that. So I didn't prepare anything for that. I didn't expect it. I just thought you have this birth plan and that's what it is. And, that's what you instruct your doctor to do and that's how it works. Well, you know, in real life, things don't happen like that. And they have to, you know, sometimes take the best course to ensure your child's life and the mother's life. And, you know, so in my case, my daughter, she went into distress and she wasn't coming all the way down the birth canal and her heart rate was going up. So they had to take her as through an emergency C-section. So, you know, that was a surprise. Um, so, you know, these are just things that I experienced. I'd love to hear from you guys things that you guys encountered or experienced during your pregnancy that weren't expected. I hope that you guys can learn from this video and find some of it helpful and useful, and you know, maybe find a community to share your experiences. I appreciate you guys tuning in and watching 3 the Smart Way. If you like the video, subscribe below. Thanks for tuning in.